3 days ago now, XRP made history, and I think this is exactly what XRP needs if it's going to get to a $6, $10, $15, $20 price point. I wanted to talk about it, showcase it, and kind of explain why I think it's important. As someone that's been holding XRP since this thing was at 30 cents, I have a bit of conviction, to say the least, in this crypto asset, but also a lot of realistic price perspectives. I feel like a lot of people are either in one extreme or in another extreme. You're either extremely bearish or you're bullish on XRP. It feels like there's never a middle ground. But in this video, I wanted to kind of explain history in the making and why I think this is a big deal for XRP and kind of where I see this thing going. So here's what happened. This was the big thing that happened. This was in September 19th. We got the news that a record-breaking $37 million worth of day one volume. And by the way, this is all inflows. So this is people buying XRP. This is the largest ETF debut of 2025. There's no bigger ETF debut. That's a big deal. I mean, this is all happening in crypto and it's happening with the XRPR ETF. Now, there was another ETF that also launched in that same day. If you wanted to compare sizes, if that's the thing that you like to do, I don't judge. But it was the Doge ETF. The Doge ETF had about $17 million worth of volume, and the XRP ETF had $37 million worth of volume. So a heck of a lot more volume. It's an absolutely huge deal. And, we're getting some big cap funds that are getting out there and being approved. Grayscale's digital large cap fund covering Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP, Solana, and ADA also getting approved. I assume that, Grayscale, they have more volume, they have more clout. They're going to be an even bigger deal for people that are looking for, big volume days. They've also got some pretty big announcements that came during this same time frame. In regards to RLUSD, I want to just take a pause here and talk about RLUSD for a second because, I'm in South Korea. And if you did not know, the big thing in South Korea for the longest time was XRP. Back in 2017, a lot of people had XRP, a lot of them, but especially in South Korea, because, it was just the hub. The hub of XRP's innovation was happening all over South Korea. And so, as I talked to people within the XRP army in South Korea, a lot of them were talking to me about RLUSD. I feel like a lot of people, they've got their original thesis on XRP. Like people, for some odd reason, I see a lot of YouTubers, they have the same perspective as like an XRP in 2017. Whereas they're like, okay, but people are going to be using XRP as the settlement layer, and that's going to make the price go to $10,000 and all these great things. But I think they're a little like, they kind of got it, but they kind of don't got it. In the sense that I think stable coins like RLUSD are going to be bigger. They're going to get more volume than XRP itself, because I think stable coins, we can all agree, it's easier to trade a dollar for a dollar versus a crypto that fluctuates. It's not a debate, right? That's why RLUSD exists in the first place. That's going to be the big thing. But they're going to use XRP to actually settle these transactions. So they're going to use a stable coin, but the stable coin's built on XRP. So that's going to lead to a lot of volume. And they don't really have a lot of competitors, and they have a lot of traction. I actually want to go ahead and highlight some of the recent partnerships that XRP had. So we had this one here with DBS Bank and Franklin Templeton, tokenized money market fund here, trading against RLUSD, which is pretty cool, with Ripple-style lending collateral. This is an absolute no-brainer for anybody in DeFi. Absolutely awesome. And MOU got signed September 18th. We also had the integration of Ripple custody for retail Bitcoin Ethereum services under the EU MiCA framework. So hopefully we get XRP on there. And then we have the Tunes partnership, which expanded to embed Ripple payments across 130 country payout networks. So, if we add XRP on there, that's just a lot more volume that could potentially be hitting the market. And in terms of total addresses, we had a bit of growth. We didn't have an incredible amount of growth. I also noticed that RUSD, didn't have a crazy amount of growth this quarter. It is one of the fastest growing stable coins, but still hasn't hit those big numbers that we're looking for. The stablecoin, it's got about $300 million worth of DEX volume generated, which is solid. It's pretty solid. It could be better. If we look at RUSD today, we just go ahead and look it up. We've got about $66 million worth of volume over the past 24 hours, which compared to other stable coins, if we're looking at the biggest stable coin at the moment, they've got about $83 billion worth of volume in the past 24 hours. We've got a lot of room to go ahead and grow here, which is a good thing. We want room to grow. That means the potential here for an arbitrage opportunity for the crypto to go up is there. There's not a lot of big listings right now on RLUSD. As you can see here, they got BitGet, they got Kraken, and that's for the most part it. I would say those aren't very big centralized exchanges compared to like Coinbase and Binance, etc. Now, I would say they're getting ready for probably a Q1 growth. Q1 is going to be really big for XRP. And I will also say that the ETFs in Q4 will also be big. So Q4, Q1 is going to be pretty big for XRP. You know, in terms of, me, where I'm thinking, where I'm holding my XRP and all this kind of stuff, I would say that I'm waiting for the next leg up for a $6 XRP. If we can hit $6 on our XRP, that would be phenomenal. That's something that we would want to see in Q4 of 2025, ideally. What's going to happen is we're going to get a large liquidity injection into the crypto markets. This is going to happen as a result of not only the Fed cutting the rates. Fed can cut rates as much as they want, but it doesn't matter if everything's going down the tube. What's going to happen is that these ETFs are going to bring a lot of inflow, and inflow is fresh capital entering the markets, and we want to have that. We want to have things more accessible. That's why I was talking about Ripple USD, because Ripple USD right now isn't really listed on a lot of major exchanges. So there's a lot of growth there that could potentially happen, and that's a good thing. We want to see growth on their stablecoin. We want to see growth on fees. We want to see more people using these stablecoins, because that means the banks are going to want to use them, and that's a good thing for anybody that's holding XRP. We want that to happen. We want it to be as seamless as possible for people to use the XRP ledger and all the underlying XRP technology. So I'm aiming for, $6, maybe $7 for XRP in Q4. And, Q1, depending on how the crypto markets react, we could be seeing a $10 plus XRP. But that's kind of where my head is at right now. I wanted to highlight the fact that no other crypto was able to get as much volume as this ETF here, the Rex Osprey XRP ETF. You can fact check this yourself. XRP ETFs are getting a ton of volume. But that's going to be pretty much the video for today. If you enjoyed the content, make sure you go ahead, like, subscribe, all that jazz. Stay classy, and I'll see you all in the next one.